Many college courses require you to memorize mass amounts of information. Memorizing for one class can be difficult, but it can be even more frustrating when you have multiple classes. Many students feel like they simply do not have strong memory skills. Fortunately, though, memorizing is not just for an elite group of people born with the right skills. Anyone can train and develop their memorizing abilities. Using memory tricks enable them to remember large chunks of information quickly. Research shows that students who use memory tricks perform better than those who do not. Memory tricks help you expand your working memory and access long-term memory. These techniques can also enable you to remember some concepts for years or even for life. Finally, memory tricks like these lead to understanding and higher-order thinking. Keep watching the full video, and don't forget to subscribe our channel.
Hi, welcome to Life Motivation YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about the memory and tips that can improve the memory and how to memorize fast and easily. Researchers have long believed that memories form due to changes in brain neurons. Our understanding today is that memories are created through the connections that exist between these neurons, either by strengthening these connections or through the growth of new connections. Memory refers to the psychological processes of acquiring, storing, retaining, and later retrieving information. Memory is like a hard drive on computer. There are three major processes involved in memory: encoding, storage, and retrieval. One model suggests that there are three main types of memory: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory is very brief, short-term memory is slightly longer, and long-term memory can last a lifetime. Short-term memory, also known as active memory, is the information we are currently aware of or thinking about. In Freudian psychology, this memory would be referred to as the conscious mind. Paying attention to sensory memories generates information in short-term memory. While many of our short-term memories are quickly forgotten, attending to this information allows it to continue to the next stage.
Forgetting is a surprisingly common event. Just consider how easy it is to forget someone's name or overlook an important appointment. Why do people so often forget information they have learned in the past?
There are four basic explanations for why forgetting occurs. First one, failure to store our memory. Second one, interference. Third one, motivated forgetting. And fourth one, retrieval failure.
Here are some simple tips to try. Check out this video from the Life Motivation for a quick explanation of these tips.
First one, try to understand the information first. Information that is organized and makes sense to you is easier to memorize. If you find that you don't understand the material, spend some time on understanding it before trying to memorize it. When you understand, it's easy to memorize.
Second one, link it. Connect the information you are trying to memorize to something that you already know. Material in isolation is more difficult to remember than material that is connected to other concepts. If you cannot think of a way to connect the information to something you already know, make up a crazy connection. For example, say you are trying to memorize the fact that water at sea level boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and 100 happens to be the first three digits of your girlfriend's phone number. Link these two by imagining your girlfriend as a boiling water. It's a crazy link, but it can help that fact to stick.
Next one, sleep on it. Studies show that your brain processes and stores information while you sleep. Try to review information just before you go to sleep, even if it's only for a few minutes, and see if it helps embed the information in your memory. That doesn't mean you have to sleep on the book.
Next tip is self-test. Quiz yourself every so often by actively recalling the information you are trying to study. Make sure to actively quiz yourself. Do not simply reread notes or a textbook. Often, students think they remember material just because it is familiar to them when they reread it. Instead, ask yourself questions and force yourself to remember it without looking at the answer or material. This will enable you to identify areas that you are struggling with. You can then go back to one of the memory tricks to help yourself memorize it. Also, avoid quizzing yourself immediately after trying to memorize something. Wait a few hours, or even a day or two, to see if it has really stuck in your memory.
Next tip, use distributed practice. For a concept to move from your temporary working memory to your long-term memory, two things need to happen. The concept should be memorable and it should be repeated. Use repetition to firmly lodge information in your memory. Repetition techniques can involve things like flashcards, using the simple tips in this section, and self-testing. Space out your studying and repetition over several days and start to increase the time in between each study session.
Next tip is write it out. Writing appears to help us more deeply encode information that we're trying to learn because there is a direct connection between our hand and our brain. Try writing your notes by hand during a lecture, or rewriting and reorganizing notes or information by hand after a lecture. While you are writing out a concept you want to remember, try to say the information out loud and visualize the concept as well.
Next tip is create meaningful groups. A good strategy for memorizing is to create meaningful groups that simplify the material. For example, let's say you wanted to remember the names of 4 plants: garlic, rose, hawthorn, and mustard. The first letters abbreviate to GRHM, so you can connect that with the image of a graham cracker. Now all you need to do is remember to picture a graham cracker, and the names of the plants will be easier to recall.
Next tip, use mnemonics. Mnemonics are systems and tricks that make information memorable. One common type is when the first letter of each word in a sentence is also the first letter of each word in a list that needs to be memorized. For example, many children learned the order of operations in math by using the sentence "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Check out Wikipedia for a good list of examples and ideas.
Next tip is talk to yourself. It may seem strange at first, but talking to yourself about the material you are trying to memorize can be an effective memory tool. Try speaking aloud instead of simply highlighting or rereading information.
Next one is exercise. Studies show that exercise can improve our memory and learning capabilities because it helps create neurons in areas that relate to memory. Cardio and resistance training both have powerful effects, so do what works best for you.
Next tip is practice interleaving. Interleaving is the idea of mixing or alternating skills or concepts that you want to memorize. For example, spend some time memorizing vocabulary words for your science class and then immediately switch to studying historical dates and names for your history class. Follow that up with practicing a few math problems and then jump back to the science definitions. This method may seem confusing at first, but yields better results in the end than simply spending long periods of time on the same concept.
I think this video helped you to improve your memory. Share this video with your friends and like this video. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.